Welcome to the worst nightmare of all. Reality.
Explore the lesser-known stories of our unknown world. Join the pursuit of the paranormal with Ash and Greg.
Hello, Ash. I won't call you Ashley because that is not your name.
No.
As we established the other day. Shortly before the intro music came in for a second time due to user error. So we are joined by the Mad Lad from Docside Media. Not Mad Lads, unfortunately, today. So we've got Tyler with us, but not Chris. How are you doing, Tyler?
Greg, Ash, great to be here. Never been better. Sad that Chris Rupert couldn't make it, but yeah, happy that I could be here with you guys, man. It's always a pleasure and just fun coming on and talking with you guys. I love what you're doing and the energy and spirit you guys are bringing to this topic of studying UAP.
We love chatting to you as well. From the moment we first spoken to you, I think this is about the third time you've been on now, and it's always fun. It is always fun. And like I've said to you before, the amount of passion that you bring to the podcast and obviously to your documentaries is a sight to behold. People don't see the video version of this, so we can all see each other. We're having this like little bromance across the pond, and it's late at night, and I feel all good.
Calm down, Greg. Calm down.
Sorry.
I'm hoping I can energize you like that, dude.
It's been a long day.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for the compliment. So
yeah, no, we do love chatting to you, and you interact with us on social media all the time, and we love that. So yeah, how are you doing, and how is Chris?
Chris and I are doing well. We're really thrilled. You know, we just released In Plain Sight, the Intelligence Community and UFOs on October 18th. It's available on Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, PlayStation, Microsoft, Vudu, and Vimeo. So hopefully your listeners out there, depending on their location throughout the world, they should be able to find it on one of those platforms.
Yes.
And man, the feedback we've been getting so far has just been truly humbling. And the experience of going and meeting with these, ex or retired CIA and former counterintelligence officers, it was a really adventurous, fun production. And then Chris Rupert just did his thing, man, where he's Michelangelo and he just chipped away the rough edges and created this ultimately, we think, really interesting, informative, entertaining, and thought-provoking documentary that people can, enjoy and have some new information and food for thought.
Definitely. And I refuse to believe there's any rough edges in that documentary that Chris had to smooth out. I refuse to believe that. Knowing you two now for such a long time, I refuse to believe it. But
that's true. You are a really good judge of character. So I won't. So I guess, you are speaking the truth. I meant it in so much, I guess he trimmed the fat. Like there was not all the footage from these hour-long interviews or hour and a half long interviews with these different people. We just can't include it all. So he does a great job of interweaving it into something that's just much more enjoyable. And I think you can internalize it better and understand it better versus watching, maybe 5 hour-long interviews straight. It's just not the same thing.
That was one thing that I noticed when I watched it, that it's very similar to your other documentaries, that you see it from the different people's points of views, and the stories are interwoven, sort of. So you'll hear a bit from one person, you'll hear a bit from another, and I like that style. And I do think that each of your documentaries, the production values, it all looks even slicker. Each one, they're always good, even right from the start. They were good. But this one, I thoroughly enjoyed watching for definite. Good information, stuff that I hadn't heard before. So yeah, we tell us about how you got to talking about in plain sight and the CIA sort of side of it.
Sure. So, we've been Docside Media. We've hit the ground running here since we started back in August, August 16th of 2021, when we filmed Anjali's press conference in front of the Lincoln Memorial here, and we ended up using it in our first Conscious Contact Full Disclosure. And so this one, in November of 2021, I believe, I saw that the first was Conscious Contact Full Disclosure about telepathy, extraterrestrials, UFOs, and the like. The second was the Ghost of Gettysburg. So we went to like the paranormal route and historic route with Gettysburg Battlefield, which is for the world listeners. That's just an important battle in the Civil War here in the U.S. A lot of people just met some tragic, untimely deaths. Then we went to Secrets of the Sasquatch. So we
loved that one.
Explored some Bigfoot experiencers and anthropologists, and went on campouts and did some of our own investigating. And then, here we are. We're going back to, it's like, oh man, let's go back to UFOs and aliens. In November of 2021, I saw retired CIA officer John Ramirez had been giving some different interviews on like YouTube. He had a PowerPoint presentation that it was like very long. He did, and then he like videoed this presentation, and also he ran the presentation by the CIA beforehand, and they signed off on it, and they didn't necessarily say, hey, everything he's saying is true, but they said, oh, well, we approve of you saying the CIA signed off on this, basically. So I'm like, yeah, that's just crazy. Saw he was doing this stuff in the UFO community. It was like, Chris, man, we should do a documentary, about the intelligence community and UFOs. So we came up with the title, got an interview with him in January of 2022 here. Then that led to the next person I interviewed was MUFON field investigator Jesse Peak. So you guys are familiar with MUFON. So he's a field investigator here in the state of Pennsylvania. We happen to notice he has a podcast, and he's just very active in the UFO community. So we interviewed him, and he's ex-Army National Guard. So he's ex-military as well. So he understands, protocols and everything. From there, we went and interviewed Roswell author and expert Tom Carey. My man's written has written 12 books on Roswell, interviewed over 600 first and secondhand witnesses to Roswell. And he was doing this starting in the 90s, where he didn't have Google, right, to look up these people and addresses. I mean, we're talking some serious legwork using phone books, pay phones. Wow. Just, like old school, like journalism and investigating. So kudos to him. He was just a plethora of knowledge and great to interview. From there, we interviewed Eric Mintel, who's a paranormal investigator and experiencer. He brought a lot of great knowledge and stories to the doc. And then finally, the last interview was like in April there of 2022 of former Air Force Office of Special Investigations counterintelligence officer Richard Doty. And man, like it just, I was saying to Chris before we got him, just like, bro, we've got great interviews. We got great footage. We need somebody else in that intelligence community. And I'll be damned if fate, like destiny, we didn't manifest, getting an opportunity to interview Richard Doty. And Easter egg, you boys will appreciate this since you watched the other docs. I ended up interviewing him at Sue Walker's house. They didn't know each other. Like they're not familiar with each other. No, like it just not at all. But just the way logistics were working and whatever, I just took it. I was like, hey, Sue, any chance you and Otter would mind if I filmed an interview at your house with Richard Doty and explained a little bit about him? And they're like, oh my gosh, absolutely. No, we'd love that. We'd love to see you. They're just super great people. So flew in to Albuquerque, New Mexico, get in at 11 p.m. at night, drive 3.5 hours through the night down to Roswell, because I'm like, bro, I'm getting up when the sun rises and getting like drone footage of the sun rising and footage of like the Roswell sign along the highway. I'm just like, bro, I'm in the state. We're just not going to get like stock footage of Roswell. I can shoot this stuff. So yeah, slept in my car for 2 hours, got up, filmed that, drove straight back up to Sue's house, 3.5 hours away. Get there at like noon. Richard shows up at 1. I think it takes like 2 hours or so front to back to conduct the interview. You zip back to the airport, hop on the plane at like 3:30 or whatever it was, and like fly back home. It was madness. But dude, if there's one thing Docside Media does, it's, man, we're putting our best foot forward. Like we try our best and let the chips fall where they may. But man, I can catch up on sleep tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, when else can I talk to these people, get footage of Roswell? So, yeah, like that was just kind of how all those interviews got strung together. And then after Richards, I'm like, Chris, dude, we've got enough. Do your thing, do your magic.
Awesome. And you've done a great job, because it is like an interview style documentary, but the way it's put together, it's really engaging. Like Greg said, the interview is sort of woven together, telling a lot of different stories, the different sides of each person's experiences and sort of investigations. So you sort of mentioned how did you get about the guests. So when you message the guests to sort of get them on, are they quite open to sort of being on the show, being interviewed to come on? Are they quite happy to be interviewed?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, like I'm just open and upfront. Hey, we're making this documentary called In Plain Sight, the Intelligence Community and UFOs. Hey, we'd love to sit down with you for an interview and use your story and experience in the documentary. If that's something you're interested in, I can schedule a flight. Yep. Within a week or two. And like we hit the ground running. So a lot of times these people are, just a lot, open to it. I've just been very fortunate. And even the ones that say no, it's still dope that they're even responding to me, whether it's like Lou Elizondo or Chris Mellon, or people just like, hey, you know what? I don't have the bandwidth, but good luck with the doc. And so I'm just like, yo, that's dope.
That's nice.
We're doing one on, we keep saying we want to do one on remote viewing. And yeah, it was like, oh man, I've reached out to some people to try and schedule those interviews. Heard back here, from like Russell Targ or whatever, who's like, one of him and Hal Putoff like birthed remote viewing. Here, this dude's 88. My man responded same day to me, said, hey, he's like, it was just, I don't think it's going to suit. But either way, like I said, I'm just always tickled pink that these people are even replying to me. So I don't take it personally. And they've all been real nice. Like, at least say, hey, like, best of luck with the documentary. So that's cool.
That's awesome. And I know when we've spoken before, you kind of, things sort of just seem to happen and it all sort of falls into place. So when you just mentioned about doing the interview at Sue Walker's house, that's just like things aligning at the right time, and like you said, she's lovely, and that comes across in the documentaries that she's lovely. But yeah, I know we've talked about like manifesting, and which is a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but I know it's something that things line up for a reason, good things happen, and that kind of stuff. And it definitely, from speaking to you, these things do sort of seem to drop when they need to for you. So it is awesome. It is awesome. And like Ash said, the style of this one's really, really good and is thoroughly engaging, as always. Slick. It looks slick, which goes a long way, because I know with some documentaries, you see them and you go, oh.
You give it 10 minutes and then, I'll see what else is on. But with these ones, it is really engaging. And there's been a lot of hype. Another documentary came out the last couple of weeks called Moment of Contact, which has had a lot of hype and released to a lot of fanfare. I think your guys should be having the same amount of fanfare because the quality
Definitely.
is there to be. Everyone should be watching this.
Yeah,
Dude,
definitely.
I'm gonna cry hearing that. I've been wanting to just. I know Moment of Contact came out. James Fox, he created a film, directed film, the Phenomenon, right? Really one of the biggest, most popular UFO documentaries of late that got a lot of people interested in this topic. So with his releasing on the same day as ours from the same distribution company, right? 1091
Wow.
Pictures. I've just been really interested to hear anybody's feedback on kind of how it stacks up. Because I was pleasantly surprised, and this is no knock on James Fox or Moment of Contact, but like as I'm looking at these on Amazon, I'm like, yo, Chris, bro, ours is available in 4K, like ultra high definition, and it's rated PG-13, which I don't know if that's an error or what, but like all our other docs you self-submit and they're like 13 plus, right? But it shows up on all the platforms as PG-13. So it's like it was sent to the MPAA, Motion Picture Association of America, whatever. They had people watch it and then give a rating on it on what. So I'm just like, dude, it legitimizes us massively. If it's a fortunate mistake, I don't care how it came to be, but it's sick that our doc's in 4K and rated PG-13, and Moment of Contact right there beside it is in 1080p and NR, like not rated. I'm like, bro, what world are we living in? This is two guys. Their budget was probably, I don't even know, 1,000 times what ours was, and probably took, I don't know, but maybe like 2 years or something, 3 years to put together. It's like, dog, we did this in 5 interviews over a few months. We had this done forever. We have to wait for distribution to do all the stuff that they do, but it's just cool that we can even kind of be in the same ballpark. So that's dope, man, that you made that comment there, Ash, without me having to like solicit it out of you. So thank you.
Well, you did before the podcast, but we won't cover that.
I did. This will be trimmed out. Out.
Absolutely. No, seriously. So in the UK, it is in 4K UHD as well, in plain sight. Whereas, like you mentioned, on Prime Video, it's only 1080p for Moment of Contact. So definitely cool. With regards to the ratings, it doesn't show me the ratings in the UK. It does. It just, I don't know what it all means, but we have similar kind of ratings.
Yeah, so might have different classifications over here. It might not be sort of classified over here yet, maybe.
Yeah. So a lot of documentaries aren't, to be fair. They're sort of like
most
exempt.
That's
or
why
something.
when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, bro, this is insane!"
That's awesome.
Like, dude, none of these have this, and I'm like, my brain, I just start spinning electrons trying to manifest. Dude, I feel like this makes it more marketable to like Netflix or HBO Max or somebody like that. It's like, oh, dude, this thing has a PG-13 stamp on it. This is like legit.
Yes,
so I don't know.
Definitely.
I'm hoping something like that happens.
And 4K. See. 4K is a big seller to me. Definitely. I only watching it on a small screen, but that's a selling point for me. I like watching stuff in 4K. But also, what I love about you two is one of the many things I love about you two is the fact that your documentaries, they're each on essentially different subjects or a different version of the subject. So the Sasquatch, you've got the Ghost of Gettysburg, you've got In Plain Sight, and you've also got Conscious Contact as well. So you haven't just stuck to we're doing UFO documentaries all the time. It's great that you've tackled other subjects because Sasquatch is a big one for me. I find that fascinating. I don't know massive amounts, but we've spoken to loads of people on the podcasts about their experiences. So it's good to get that side. And Sue Walker features on Secrets of Sasquatch as well, which is awesome to see her on there as well. But yeah, that is the one thing you can't pigeonhole you in UFO documentaries or whatever. So that is another thing. You guys tackle those, whereas other people and other documentary makers might just go down the one route. So hats off to you guys there. It's never easy to tackle loads of different subjects, for definite, because I know me and Ash struggle sometimes when we're having to speak about stuff and all these different versions of sometimes the same thing, but it's cool that you're prepared to tackle different subjects. That speaks volumes.
Thanks, man. That's what's up. We try our best, and we, so far, and our plan is to continue to do it, is that, we keep our personal views and opinions out of these documentaries. Like, we realize we're just, we're not experts on this subject matter. So we find the experts and people who've had these unique personal experiences. And, we only do these interviews with people that we feel are sincere and genuine and sincerely, believe that these are the experiences they have. We're not looking to just make, wild content that is just made up. So
because that would be easy to do as well.
It would be. But at that point, it's like, oh, Chris, well, I don't need to go fly places. We'll just write it ourselves, and I'll just, I'll do the acting for it and say everything. So we don't rely, we're relying on these experts. So I think that's what allows us to tackle all these various subjects where, we're just kind of following our heart, and interviewing people that, have had these really, really neat stories and journeys. And letting them, giving them a platform to share it with the world, and then help to destigmatize these topics and let other people talk about them more openly to hopefully get us more answers.
It's hard to ignore when you've got like ex-CIA or ex-Air Force employees that are willing to go on camera and put their experience at stake to say, I'm going to come out and talk about this. Like, I could get a lot of comeback on this. I could get obviously a lot of negative stuff and that we do get in this subject. Then to put their sort of professional reputation at risk to come forward, you've got to take note when people are doing that to think, hang on, there's got to be something to this. So that's just, it's good to have that in there as well.
Definitely. I must also congratulate you, because like other documentaries that I've seen recently, there's a lot of asking the questions. So the person is also asking the question saying, what did you see? Whereas with yours, because it's like an eyewitness testimony, the person's just telling their account. You're not leading them with a question or anything like that. It's just they tell you what has gone on, which I think lends credibility as well, because you're not trying to pursue the narrative. They're sort of talking, and it goes where they take it, rather than you going, right, I want to take it down this route, which is another credible sort of way of storytelling. For in my mind, I like that, because you kind of go, wow, this person's just sort of free reign in their conversation. So that, I love that.
Thanks, man. And that's, again, kudos to Chris. Rupert, he just does a great job. Like I said, there's a lot of footage that's on the cutting room floor, but it's just, we're constantly amazed that when we get these interviews, just, I don't know, like, they just happen to be talking. A lot of times they bring up the same subjects, and it's a beautiful thing that Chris, he can just see the commonalities and threads in these people's stories to interweave them into like this really great documentary. And for the people listening, one thing I think that we also try and do a really good job of is, one, we're filming these people with 3 different cameras. We've got like 2 on tripods, and a third on a gimbal. So we have some movement in our camera shots. And so we've always, since the beginning, tried to do a good job of, even though it's the same person talking, boom, it'll keep kind of bumping to different camera angles. So it's not just getting stale, then throwing some B-roll to give you a visual representation of what the person on screen is talking about. And it's just, I love just shooting it with the 3 cameras and being able to bounce between all 3 in this really neat way that, with like the TikTok in this day and age, with everybody having a super short attention span, I feel like that's what helps our documentaries be effective, is that we kind of keep the screen moving so that people can stay engaged when they have short attention spans. And I think one of my strengths is that, I go into these interviews with just a very open mind, non-judgmental, and just, good vibes, right? Like just this positive mindset. And I think it allows these people to feel very comfortable sharing about some personal stuff that could be embarrassing. And so, I love interviewing these people and just getting them in a good headspace where they can talk comfortably in front of a camera or multiple cameras, and lights, and, they got a mic on. It's just, you could be the most genuine, sincere, honest person on the earth, but appear nervous in front of a camera, and it just, the audience can feel that and see it. So yeah, I just love, I like getting everybody, pumped up, and hey man, we're here to have fun and share your stories. So, we're going to do our best. And it always comes out. It's so far has come out really good.
Kind of on that note, and I'm going to make another comparison to Moment of Contact, but just because I watched both documentaries like literally within hours of each other, so they're both, over a few days ago, both fresh in my mind, and talk about sort of the content of yours a little bit as well. In Moment of Contact, there's a being that's captured, and they take it to wherever. And in your documentary, talking to Richard Doty, and he talks about a being that's been captured. He sees it on the screen, sort of being interviewed. So, I mean, you said that you don't really make judgment on what stories people are telling you. And obviously, someone coming out and saying that, where they're walking to a room in A51, and then on the screen they've got an alien effectively on camera being interviewed telepathically by two officers. I mean, what a story! And this goes far beyond like seeing lights in the sky type experiences. We have a captured being, and like Moment Contact has a captured being. In Plain Sight has a captured being. It's like, is this happening? Do we have multiple beings being captured? It really makes you think, like, is this happening now?
That's true. That's a crazy synchronicity. And yeah, I don't know. What are the odds that's what comes out? Number one, I'll say I know that Richard Doty, he's counterintelligence, and he admits that his job at Kirkland Air Force Base was to disinform the public when people had sightings that were UFOs. He would try to inform them that what they saw was top secret aircraft, and to keep it to themselves for, be a good American, a good patriot. And if they saw, the other way, top secret tech, they would try and convince them that it was actually a UFO, and to keep it quiet, again, to not stir the public. So, he readily admits that was his job and what he did. My gut feeling from interviewing him, he seemed very, very human to me. It seemed very disarming, very sincere, was nervous, like before the interview, not like super nervous, but like a human being is before cameras are about to go on and lights and hooking up a mic. It's like, oh man, this is a little nerve-wracking. Chris always mentions what he saw, not being at the interview, but then going through the footage to edit the doc, was like Richard's just very kind of matter of fact, kind of giving a presentation, almost like he's just recalling these, events from his memory. And it's neat that, there's times that would come up throughout the interview where he's talking and then he would pause and be like, you know what, I can't go into that any further.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was really, but yeah, my gut feeling, I didn't feel misled or anything like that. I didn't feel like he was just trying to disinform me. To what end, I really don't know.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I wouldn't be surprised if, given his past, maybe he's trying to turn over a new leaf now. I wouldn't be shocked if that are his motives for talking about this.
one thing I was going to ask you, or is actually going to say, is that you've just been mentioning about the fact that you've got these people they're a little bit nervous before they go on camera, and such like, and there's something about being able to look somebody in the eye when they're telling you an account of something that's been going on. We although we do audio only on our podcasts, we have the video like we've got now, so you can see the people and you can get a feel when they're telling you an experience or their information they're giving you, unless they're pathological and they're like these trained agents, I suppose. But you can get a sense of what they're saying, whether or not it's real, whether or not they believe what they're saying, because that's another thing. Do they believe what they're saying so much that what they're saying is actually false, but they believe the account? Because I know on podcasts before, we've talked about Bob Lazar. Again, quite a divisive character in the whole of the UFO community. But do you believe him, and does he believe what he's saying, or does he believe his version of what's being said? So seeing somebody's eyes and having that conversation with them, and like yourself, you're filming it from 3 different angles and you're with them in the room, you should be able to tell quite quickly whether or not they're telling you a bit of what we would say in the UK is a pork pie. But or telling porkies, as we say. But there is something to the genuineness you can get from somebody when you're face to face, eye to eye with them, and I think that's something that you don't get when you're just recording something over a phone or speaking to them that way, because you just don't get that feeling. So yeah, I think from knowing you now for the long time that we have, that comes across in all the documentaries, that I don't get the impression that you would put stuff in there if you didn't believe what they were saying was their version of the truth.
Exactly. Yeah. Chris and I, exactly. Yeah. We're just not in the business of, and we get like just putting out false information that we know is absolutely, it just doesn't feel right. And I don't know. I've always had a pretty good memory and just a knack for when people, like, just when I talk with people, I just, for whatever reason, if there's an inconsistency, and it could be like something they said 7 weeks ago, and then they say something today, and it's something like very innocuous. Like, I mean, it has nothing of importance or anything, but just like it pings my radar. I'm like, dude, that's not consistent with, what was, and then it just gives me pause. And so, knock on wood, so far I have not had just any issues with these people that I've interviewed. I mean, they all seem to just be very genuine and sincere. And Chris and I, right, we would not be, we're not in the business of just putting out, interesting stories that are obviously, these people made them up. Yeah. So,
and the kind of people you're talking to, especially on the latest one, with the ex-military. These people have, like Ash said, they've got potentially a lot to lose by saying what they're saying. So it's not something that they would take lightly, I don't think either. So to put something out there that they talk about across social media and on other media outlets or types of forms of media, if one thing came out as a falsehood or something, like you said, an inconsistency in the story, nowadays people would just crucify them online. And that's one way that they would just lose all their legitimacy. So, yeah, I think the fact that you speak to these people and they do, like Sue Walker, for example, when you listen, if you were just to read her story without seeing her say it or recount all of these interactions she's having and the drawings she's done, you could kind of go, that sounds way out there. But when you see her on film and she comes across a completely lovely lady and sounds absolutely genuine, and like, why would you you couldn't even make it up. It's that fantastical, some of it, and you go, well, yeah, it comes
and
across.
I love for her, she's always just like, man, yeah, I mean, if she wasn't talking about that stuff, she'd be your grandma. She's just like
absolutely.
just a really thoughtful, kind, well-rounded, level-headed, curious, like individual, just nice and thoughtful. Like I said, I mean, so it's just, it's amazing, like you said, to see her talk and share these experiences. It's like, dude, I'll be damn. I mean, I would bet my last dollar that she would pass a polygraph test. Like, she's not saying this stuff just to make some fanciful story. And I remember reading stuff somewhere on some thread on Reddit where whatever, somebody had mentioned maybe she was trying to make money or whatever. And, they went through like the source code on her website and all this stuff. They're like, yo, if she is trying to make money, she is doing a horrible job. There is, but like, went through all these different things that anybody apparently, with half a brain cell that's trying to, just generate money off like false content, whatever. They had this whole thing. They're like, dude, she's obviously not doing that. This looks like she's just trying to share her experience, the story, the best she can. So yeah, it was awesome that fate, destiny, saw fit to have our paths cross, because it was cool. I mean, if I don't meet her, right, we don't end up doing Secrets of the Sasquatch then, because like she was in Conscious Contact Full Disclosure, but we don't, something she said during the Conscious Contact Full Disclosure interview sparked something in me that was like, a couple weeks, Chris, we should do Secrets of the Sasquatch. I think I can go back and interview Sue. And same deal, like just the way events unfolded without saying much, honestly, we most likely don't have Richard Doty's interview if it's not for Sue Walker, right? It's like the weirdest of things. It's like, the truth is stranger than fiction, man. I couldn't have scripted this any better. But somehow, Sue, it's been a pleasure meeting her. And it's just been really cool, man.
I say sometimes people just come into your life out of nowhere, and it kind of shapes the rest of your journey down that path. Like me and Ash, we literally met on a Facebook poker admin group. And then 2 years later, we're just about to celebrate our 2nd anniversary of the podcast. We've got our 100th episode coming up next week, all sorts of stuff. And if it hadn't been this contact in that poker admin group at that point, would not have had us three talking together in October 2022 about your documentaries, Sue Walker, everything. So sometimes things line up just right. For no apparent reason at the time. Synchronicity. And I know we've spoken about that when you mentioned it earlier, and I'd forgotten what the word was. Synchronicity. It's a cool word, isn't it?
Dude, it's nuts. So far, darn near every single podcast we've been on, there's been some sort of synchronicity and something in the doc that was seen. I think it was like Savita the Starseed on her podcast. That Eric Mintel's story of seeing 5 orbs really resonated with her. She had an experience, and it was wild to just see like, oh man, I didn't think anybody else had this 5 orb experience. And which led her to contact John Ramirez, the CIA officer, right? Retired CIA, and him talk to her about orbs and the significance of the 5, and just wild stuff, man, that I would have never dreamed of. And there's just multiple synchronicities that darn near every podcast has had. For this one, I would say, man, I've been hoping somebody would compare Moment of Contact to In Plain Sight, the Intelligence Community and UFOs, and Ash drops that on us right in the beginning.
Oof.
So, that
Yeah.
was, I would say, also a dope synchronicity. And what else? Oh, check this out, guys. I'll hit your listeners with this. So I'm on a podcast the other day, and it was Deb's Data Dojo, if the listeners are familiar with her, but she watched the doc. She knows John Ramirez, communicates with him some, like separately of me, is just kind of a synchronicity, a coincidence. She talks to him, calls him on the phone, talks to him before the podcast, and gets his, like, she was like, John, yeah, can I get a statement from you on this documentary? And he was like, yeah, just real nice, saying, man, Tyler was super professional. This, is very high quality and production value. And he mentioned, he was like, I was very pleasantly surprised to see and hear other people talking about information that you had to be read into to know. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? Like, so it was just, all these people appeared genuine, but it was just dope hearing this, whatever. The guy I had interviewed, like, and I didn't go back to him and say, hey, this is just like no contact, really. I let him know the doc dropped. He was like, hey, thanks so much. But yeah, so to just hear this from this other podcast host that she spoke to him and said these things, it's like, oh, dude, that's just really, really, really fascinating and cool.
That's cool. I know, talking about synchronicities and different podcasts, because we spoke to who is now someone I converse with quite a lot about podcasting, Jeremiah, on the What If They're Wrong podcast. And I said to him, you should speak to these two. And it turns out that he sort of grew up near you guys, and it's all mad. All these people.
Yeah, like a 15-minute drive or something. It's crazy.
He was like, yeah, I'm just down the road. I was like, what? So I chat to him quite a lot on Facebook and Instagram, just about podcasting and such like. And it's just like this sort of web of people that either know each other or there's different sort of like links to each other. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it's just so much smaller than you think, right? Like, you think 7.8 billion people, dude, that's mind-boggling. But dude, we had a few social media posts that back on October 18th we put out, whether it was the poster or the trailer. We did it on Reddit and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. Dude, a week later here, or I guess a week and 1 day, 8 days later, dude, they went over 250,000 news feeds, bro. 250,000 feeds. That's what the metrics show. Organically. Like, we didn't pay to sponsor these, boost it, like, organically. And I'm like, dude, Chris, dude, you realize out of 7.8 billion people, that's like 1 out of every 31,000 people are aware of this documentary.
That's mad.
Or came across their feed. 1 out of every 31,000. And I don't know, dude, that blows my mind, bro. It's like, yo, all these football, American football or European football games, if there's 31,000 people at that stadium, bro, one person knows the Docside Media in that baby. Or if there's 60,000, 2 people know. So I'm just like, dude, it's crazy how connected the world is, man.
We've got, like a medium sort of sized, decent sized town in the UK's probably got around 30 to 40,000 people. So that's essentially one person in every major town in the UK,
in every hamlet,
town, have heard of you guys or seen it online somewhere. So that's astonishing, really. And if you times that across the world, that's mental. That is mental.
It's crazy, man. It's I just never would have thought something like that, is possible beyond my wildest dreams. So yeah, we just keep swinging for the fences, man. And worst case scenario, we strike out. But like the cool thing about life is, dude, like, unless I don't go back up to the plate, like, yo, we keep going. You know what I mean? Like, I can strike out all day long, but it's not over until I say it's over, until I'm not going back up to the plate. So it's been a great journey for us in making all these documentaries and meeting all these people like you and these people with these just very personal and interesting experiences. Like, it's helped make me a more well-rounded individual. Like, I have no doubt in this past year, I'm just a more open-minded, non-judgmental, respectful person. I feel I was high on that spectrum to begin with, but you can just always get bad. You can always improve. So it's been great doing what we're doing. And it's been neat to watch Chris grow as well, because he's just much more skeptical than me. And I'll be darned if he hasn't become much more open-minded and a little bit more optimistic at times. I think my positivity might be wearing off on him a bit. So it's been great for both of us. And it almost seems like the phenomenon like directs or nudges or calls these different people to it, right? I mean, Chris and I weren't highly fascinated with this type of stuff growing up, UFOs and ETs. Like, I always thought, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something else out there. The universe is a big place, but I never really committed a lot of brain power to it. So it was insane to just feel compelled and led to film the first one and snowball from there. We would have never guessed this, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
I mean, it's literally only been like just over a year, really, and you've had the 4 documentaries picked up. I mean, that's just astonishing, and they're all really good. So it's just like, it is an amazing journey, and obviously, literally 14 months you've been doing all this, which is just crazy. And I think last time you were on, you were talking about another documentary that you were planning or recording, which was Ghosts in the Graveyard, Pure Pandemonium. Any update on that one?
So, Destiny has, that doc almost feels cursed, which only compels us that much more to do it and film it. So we had a haunted camp out. So it's Ghosts in the Graveyard, Pure Pandemonium. For the listeners out there, the reason it's called that, there's a haunted cemetery out in the middle of nowhere in the ghost town of Pandemonium, Pennsylvania, which, if you're not familiar, Pandemonium is Latin for abode of demons. So all this stuff is a great setup. Like, dude, this doc writes itself. I already interviewed the author, an author and a historian on this place. And so there's some great just figures, like paranormal figures and ghosts and whatnot that have been witnessed in the area for a long time, as well as just a great history about this town and the people that met these untimely, tragic ends, right? Like back in the 1800s and very early 1900s. before the town disappeared. So September, we have it set up. Everybody's getting ready to go. Paranormal investigator, a bunch of adventurous people. Chris gets like deathly ill 2 days before. He always chimes in and is like, "Oh, dude, I wasn't deathly ill." I'm like, "Bro," I kept saying, oh, dude, don't tell me you can't go yet. We got another 2 days. You might recover." And he's like, "Bro, I just keep puking. I can't stop." I'm like, "All right, fine. We'll reschedule." So we reschedule then. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before. So like 10 days ago, we get out to the haunted cemetery. I get the tent pitched, fires going. I got hot dogs cooking, man. Like it's in the middle of the day, just getting everything prepped. The paranormal investigator / medium shows up. I'm like, "We in business. We got other people coming." Dude, we get like, it's like 2 hours before sunset. I'm like, "Dude, this is a great time to do this interview." Like the first interview, we can bless the place. She had just tons of equipment and just very genuine. Like she's the expert on this, right? She knows how to go about this. And out in the middle of nowhere, with no cell phone service, somehow, literally minutes before we start recording the interview, she gets a voicemail come through to her phone that her brother and sister-in-law, like the sister-in-law has been induced or whatever, is in labor and is having this baby. And she needs, she like needs to go. And she's like, "I can stay until like 7 or 8, and I'm just like, running through my head. I'm like trying to piece, scenes together. I'm just like, man, like we're not in the business of just filming stuff and making stuff for the heck of it. We're in the, we're trying to make very interesting documentaries, man, and legit. So I was like, man, we can't have our lead investigator, right, and medium only here for the very beginning of this doc, not being here for the camp out. So I was like, man, we have to, we'll scrap it and we'll reschedule it. So, I like get my car, drive 20 minutes so I could get cell service to call the other people that are on their way. It was madness, man. It was madness. So twice, like we've been right there on the cusp and had to bail. But we're rescheduling here for November 12th. So if any of your listeners worldwide or in the UK can get here I would fly into Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's going to be your best bet. It's like 20 minutes from this campsite, but we can, we'd love to have you along for this adventure. So we're rescheduling again. We're going to shoot it. It's going to be colder, but I'm of the mindset. It's like, it stinks in the moment. But it's like, you know what? Like we'll make a better doc because of it. I don't know why. I can't see why or how or understand now, but like in hindsight, we'll be like, bro, it's way better we filmed that jaunt in November, dude. It would have sucked there in October. We didn't have the right people or the right conditions. Just, I don't know. I'm a firm, but we'll get a better doc out of it. But so that one's still coming for sure.
What else have you got lined up? I know you're thinking ahead all the time. What other thoughts have you guys got?
I think we probably brought it up on your podcast before about like a remote viewing doc. So I've got feelers out to different people. I have a bunch of great contacts in that field. So I'm lining those interviews up, hoping to get those filmed here in like November, December at the latest, so that we can start cutting that. I need to get hot on interviewing these people on reincarnation and like past life regression. We think there's a great doc there, but we haven't started the interviews yet. And then Chris, he's been twisting my arm for a minute here about wanting to film like a haunted Christmas documentary. So, man, we're fortunate with where we live. There happens to be the city of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. There's a haunted hotel there. And I'd like to find like a haunted cathedral, right? Or church or something as well that we could explore. But we at least have the haunted hotel. But so we're thinking of probably this Christmas shooting a haunted Christmas doc. And then, I mean, even though it would be finished, we probably won't release it until like Christmas of 2023 or Thanksgiving, because that's like just when they play best. Everybody wants to watch those things. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think we can make something unique and entertaining.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Greg? Or
final thoughts, dude? Well, I love what you guys are doing. Thanks so much for continuing to have myself and Chris on, to represent Docside Media. Thanks for all the great compliments. For the listeners out there, we're active on Docside Media is active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We love feedback. If you happen to watch In Plain Sight, the Intelligence Community and UFOs, whatever streaming platform you choose, whether it's Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, PlayStation, Microsoft Voodoo, or Vimeo, please leave a review if you feel particularly moved or compelled. We'd love to hear your feedback. Even if it doesn't resonate with you, drop us a bad, just drop us your honest opinion, man, because, we think we're big enough people to understand that we can't please everyone. And at the same time, we don't know everything, right? So we're always looking for different feedback and perceptions and how people view our docs and looking to keep improving and get better. So good, bad, and different, man. We'd love to hear from you for sure.
Cool.
So give us a follow. Yeah, watch our docs. We'd love it.
Yeah, and if you like In Plain Sight, then you need to go back and watch the other ones, because we've thoroughly enjoyed the journey with you guys since speaking to you. I don't even know when we first spoke to you, probably about a year ago nearly now. So
yeah, the first one came out April 19th of 2022. So I think
so we must have spoken just around that time.
That.
Yeah.
So it hasn't even been a year, right? That's crazy.
I know. It seems like we've spoken so many times, so much has happened, but as always, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Unfortunately, Chris couldn't be with us today, but when the next one drops, boom, we'll be chatting again about all things Docside for definite.
Keep them DMs open, baby. We'll keep sending them to you if you'll keep having us on.
We'll be sliding in them like you would not believe. But yeah, appreciate it, Tyler. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Ash and Greg. You guys rock, man. And appreciate all the compliments. Keep on keeping on.
Cool.
You too, man.
Pursuit of the Paranormal with Ash and Greg.